prescient, relevant, important.
Super bookstore.
Welcoming, inspirational, and the place to be.
Wonderful is the word that comes to mind. Inviting.
Inviting, dog-friendly, which is one word because it's hyphenated, and hip.
We just love coming in here. There's always something that catches my eye.
Just everybody is nice, and when you come in, you're treated really nicely. They help you with whatever you need. It's just a very pleasant environment to visit.
The first thing you do when you go to a town, if you're a reader, is you check out their library and you check to see if they have a bookstore. And those two things say a lot about a town, you know?
All around, it's a wonderful community gathering place. And there's never been a moment where one didn't feel welcome and appreciated. And it's a terrific example of how a small, privately owned bookstore can not only survive but thrive by bringing in all the writers and poets and kind of nutty people in the community to come and do their thing. It's great fun.
Funny enough, the Galaxy Bookshop opened in 1988, which was the same year that my parents moved to this area. So I've been here as long as the Galaxy has.
I moved here to be near my daughter in 2008, and it was in the other building. And I was impressed immediately because everyone was so nice. And when I had to order something, it always came quickly. And so I got really attached to the bookstore right from the beginning. And I love the new one here. It's really a much better setting than the old one. And I'm really, really thankful we have a bookstore.
I moved to this area in 1995. I started teaching at Hazen in 1995. And at that point, the Galaxy was in the bank building, and so the Galaxy became my bookstore. I loved that space, and it was really the first time in my life, except for the 4 years I was in college, that I lived near a bookstore that I could go to regularly, and that was really great.
It was in 1986. We bought the Gazette, and we were new to Hardwick, and it's like, well, this seems like a neat little town, but darn, it needs a bookstore. It was, I guess, the next year Linda opened the Galaxy.
This is a picture. Well, she doesn't love to get her picture taken, I think we all know, of Natalie Kinsey Warnock. But I have this one from the newspaper, and I was thinking of this on the way here when we were both working at the Craftsbury Outdoor Center one winter, and I just said to her at the time, yeah, I think I'm going to start a bookstore. I'm going to give it a try anyway. And she said, oh, I'm writing some children's books. I'm going to give it 5 years, and if I get any of them published, that'll be great. And if I don't, that's okay too. And so she started publishing children's books, and I started the bookstore at pretty much the same time. And it was really awesome because there were times when we called it the Natalie Kinsey Warnock Bookstore. Well, the whole beginning of the bookstore happened pretty quickly. Like, I think it was 6 weeks from the time the idea was dropped in front of me by Jean Hansel, who thought that Hardwick needed a bookstore, and I started thinking about it and just decided to do it. And so it came time to register a trade name, and I couldn't come up with anything really that I liked or thought would be enduring. And I was sitting around with my family, like my mom and my dad, I think, was there too, and it was my mom who suggested the name, and I liked it because it was kind of all encompassing. I used to sit at home and at night and hand make the bookmarks before being an artisan was cool. But it was mostly because, I maybe needed like 4 or 5 a day, so I could just replenish them at night. Gosh. On December 4th, one of the first days of business, there's the sales.
Wow.
And on the 5th, 3 books. Somewhere I have the original ad, but the first newspaper ad said over 100 titles. So this is this treasure Hazard and the Five Delights by Chris Noel. This was the first book that we had an author event for.
Oh, wow.
Published in 1988, signed by Chris Noel. The very, very first author event. I can say this publicly on film. I turned him down at his first request for an author event. I'm sorry, Chris Bojalian. I should have known better. In the early days of the Galaxy Bookshop, we had a writers group that met at the bookstore, and we ended up publishing 2 editions of the Dog Pond Review. And it has this awesome cover art donated by Mary Azarian. So the 2 was 1990, 91, and so this would have been probably 89. I guess when we think of the place of a bookstore in a community, we had Galway Canal scheduled for September 11th, the September 11th, and all day we just kind of wondered about having the event or not having the event, and I think ultimately we left it up to him, and he called and said he was coming because he felt it was important that people be together and gather, and it was a really, really, really wonderful event. When we moved from the bank building back up to Main Street, it really didn't take that long. We borrowed shopping carts and we were really organized. The main reason that it didn't take long is that we had so many people come help. Yeah, just so many people from the bookstore family that came and helped, and they cleaned the bookshelves and put books in boxes and moved things and moved the bookshelves, which are really heavy, and it was really awesome and amazing.
Books are just a wonderful part of being alive, to be able to sit and read.
I like books. I like to hold books in my hand and turn my pages. I had Kindle for a while and it just didn't do it for me. So I like to look at books and select them and enjoy them, and so that I can do that here in my own town is really a wonderful thing for me.
I mean, there's Kindle, there's online books and ebooks, but there's nothing like holding a book in your hand, smelling the binding, it's an honor.
I guess when you talk about how a bookstore succeeds, there are so many people involved, because there are the people that own the store and have to do the day-to-day, the hard work of keeping the bills paid, keeping the books coming in, keeping the doors open. But then to support that, in order to make that possible, we have our customers who come in and who love us so much and are so wonderful and supportive of the bookstore. And when they have family from out of town, they bring their family here because they want to show them their bookstore. And that's pretty awesome. We have the local authors who also support us by coming here and doing book signings, and are just equally loving of independent bookstores and their place in our towns. So yeah, I'm really grateful for a lot of people.
And lots of customers have come in the past week knowing that we were filming this video but not wanting to be on camera. And one of the things that I heard over and over again about Linda and Sandy over the years is that the Galaxy has a reputation for being a place where people, your booksellers, will bend over backwards to try to find your book for you. And one customer was here saying he was looking for this sort of unusual book that he read, and he had heard that there was maybe a sequel or another book by that author coming out, but couldn't find it anywhere, and months went by and just seemed like a dead end. And one day, walking down the road, Linda came literally running out of the Galaxy, chasing after him with an advanced reader copy of the book that he had heard maybe would be coming out sometime, and just put it in his hands, remembered that that's what he wanted, and that's who was looking for this book, and made that connection and chased him down the street to hand it to him. And that kind of attention is the bar that was set by Sandy and Linda at the Galaxy.
One really wonderful memory is that I got a call from Howard Frank Mosier one morning, and he needed an author photograph for his book. And so he said, "I'm coming and I want you to take my author photograph with your bookstore in the background." And so he came, and when he arrived, he had a turtle with him that he'd found on Route 14, a little turtle. So he handed me the camera, which was just a little, pretty much an instant digital camera. And I snapped a couple photos with the turtle, which wasn't a snapping turtle. I snapped the photos, but not the snapping turtle. And it ended up being the author photo. Completely low tech, completely on the fly, and completely Howard Frank Mosier.
So, Boo, what's your first memory of the Galaxy?
Yeah, coming to work and, I get biscuits when I come here. My first memory is getting biscuits at the Galaxy.
Yeah. Why do you think it's important to have an independent bookstore around here?
Because people like to come in and see dogs, and they like to read books about dogs, and they like to give biscuits to dogs. Yeah.
So, what's your favorite book, Boo?
I like Skippy John Jones, because that cat cracks me up, and he thinks he's a dog. That's a good book, yeah.
Yeah,
We
that's
have
a
that?
good book.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that book.
What kind of space do you want to make for the customers there, Boo?
I like to make a space where there's lots of room to lay on the floor and pet me. Yeah. And I like to have some good, space for jumping up to catch biscuits.